Look, I found out the hard way. It gets everything. So I'm like, let me just make sure. All right, it's coming. Little button's going across. It's going across.
You know, as Grace starts singing, "Where the money reside, where the money reside."
That's an affirmation. That's an affirmation. Shoot, what you talking about? Where
That
the money
brother,
resides is
he done,
right. Where the money resides
he done
is
caught
an
something real,
information. That's what
real
I'm
good
talking
with that one.
about. Yeah. But you know what? He was smart about it because what he did, Leroy McKenzie Jr., is all right, I'm just getting up. He did with the money resides, he got it right away.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Said,
Mm-hmm.
I love it. He got it patent right away. He didn't wait. He was about his business. And I love that. Where some people have the catchphrases and, you know, they don't know to, or they don't have the reputation to say, you know what? All right, I just tagged you.
Okay.
So they
Yep.
don't have the representation to, okay. All right. I don't see you. Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Where the money resides is going to be 2021's anthem, right?
Right.
All right, so Leroy McKenzie Jr. Hey, everybody, it is Kendell Lenice, and welcome to Kendell Lenice Live. Officially, we are on YouTube Live, and you can catch us there, and also on Leroy's Facebook page is the link. All right. So, Leroy, every time we had an amazing conversation yesterday, as we always do when we're talking about relationships or real relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
And had other conversations about relationships. You guys can go scroll down to YouTube, this YouTube channel, and see our conversations about. Do you remember what the last one was about, Leroy, on YouTube?
Well, was that the one? Well, I think that was relationships as well, wasn't it? Or
Yeah, but I'm
somewhere?
saying, do you remember what it was about? I'm gonna tell you because I just reposted
Did you? Okay.
TikTok and I
Yeah, you got to.
reposted some of them. We were talking about bringing something to the table
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
and be careful of what you ask for. You might
Yeah.
get it, and are you ready when you get it?
Right, because
Remember?
yeah, right, because I made the post. It was a
All
post
right,
that
so
you
let's
grabbed from.
all right, let's right. All right, so we all the way live, Leroy. Get your little phone together so we can have this conversation.
Nah, go
I
ahead.
see you reposted and all of that. That's what you're supposed to do. All right. So yesterday when we talked off the show, because Leroy and I, y'all, we are working on a relationship forum, and we'll tell you more about it. Oftentimes, Leroy and I are like mind when it comes to relationships and it comes to love and the honesty. See, Leroy is honest about what men want and need, and I'm honest about women, and we're both honest about the same sexes as far as he'll tell you, you know, how the men be tripping sometimes, as well as I will tell you about the women's flaws as well.
women,
Okay. All
women
right.
tripping and
So,
men wilding.
did you see my post? You did?
Uh-uh.
Right. Everybody is wilding out and tripping. All right. So, this is Leroy McKenzie Jr. Tell the people a little bit about yourself. I'm going to do it differently this time. Tell the people about who you is.
Oh yeah. See, now you flipping the table on me. So, I am Leroy McKenzie Jr. I am actually the president and CEO of JNF Enterprises, which you can kind of see back there, which is a distribution, publishing, and business consulting firm here in Baltimore. And what we do is we assist individuals and organizations in being able to bring their vision to reality. And we do that in just a couple of different ways. We do it through business consulting, which is where we assist those organizations and individuals to be able to market and brand themselves in a further dynamic. We put strategies and plans together that will allow you to be able to do that in a greater capacity. And then we also do it from a book publishing, or let's say book publishing from a book consulting perspective, which is where if you're an aspiring author, we can assist you with being able to bring that book vision to reality. Or if you're already an author, then we can assist you with being able to take your brand, your business to that next level that you may be looking to go to.
Leroy is an authorpreneur, is what he likes to
Absolutely.
call himself, and I think he is, and I like to call him Little Clarence Avant. And I say this on all the shows that he's been on. He's been part of my men's forum. He's been part of my women and men's forum collectively, and he's also been on a show for Kendell Lenice Live about networking and working being crucial to business and really to life. But we're not talking about, and then he's also been on the relationship show. So we're not talking about business today, or we could be talking about the business of relationships. But how I want to start it today is what I found it interesting when we talked about the lion and the lioness.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what people know about who is really head in the jungle. I want to start off there. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, I guess you and I, when we were talking yesterday, I mentioned something to you that was that I found to be very interesting, because I'm not a documentary buff or whatever, but I happened to be watching this particular. It was on YouTube that I happened to watch, and they were showing the lion and the lioness, and they were hunting. They were actually, you could see this herd of I forgot what, I think it might have been zebras or something like that, whatever, that was running by. But in the documentary, the narrator was talking about the lion and the lioness, and the lioness was sitting here. If you can see my hand, was sitting here. The lion was sitting back some ways, and it made it look as if the lion was actually waiting to be able to to be able to go after the animals, to be able to kill. But while you could see, and what the narrator was saying, while um, I guess the herd was paying attention to the lion, of course, because you're paying attention to, they're going to be paying more attention maybe to the lion than the lioness that was sitting there. And she takes off and gets one of the the animals or whatever and everything like that. And he mentions in there that in the animal kingdom, in the lion kingdom, the lioness is the one that does the hunting, as opposed to the lion, because most of us, we've been taught, or what we saw was the lions do the hunting. But in actuality, it's the lioness that goes out and does the hunting versus the lion.
It's so, and when you said that, yesterday, and we talked about that, because you often hear people talk about the men. The man is the hunter. He hunts after what he wants. We hear that all the time.
All the time.
And we talked about how us women are very clever. And sometimes we can make the men feel like they're the ones who did the hunting.
Y'all do it.
But it's really the woman who does the hunting. And you even gave an example. I'm not sure if you want to talk about that on air, but you gave a perfect example on how sometimes the man think he's really the hunter, but it's really the woman who really got the binoculars out, seeing who she wants her prey, and go. Right. Do you want to share that? You don't have to if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about the story, and what I did was I told you about an ex-girlfriend of mine, and how she approached me without approaching me, which is what we said that a lot of women do. They let you know that they're interested without really kind of approaching you, which most of the time when you hear about men-women relationship, or when you hear here's the question that you hear: should women approach men? And you get all kinds of dynamics. And like we talked about yesterday, you get some women that say, look, I ain't doing it. It don't matter. That's not who I am. That's not what I'm supposed to do. I ain't supposed to approach no man. The man is supposed to approach me. He's supposed to be the one to come up to me, ask me, for this, that, and the other, ask me for my number or whatever and everything like that. So I gave you the example of what happened to me where my ex-girlfriend way back, back then, the way that she didn't approach me, but she made it so that I knew that she was interested. And she made it, I guess, so that I could approach her or I could ask her out. And I've said that. I've said that there are some women that will let, men know subtly that they are interested in them, whether it's a look. And I had one of my friends tell me this years ago, and you tell me, Kendell, if this is true, because you're a woman, so you can tell me if you've done it or if women do it. She told me this years ago, and I've never forgot it. She said, Leroy, she said, if a woman is interested in you, she said that she said she will give you a look. You got it. You have to pay attention because it can be it's very subtle. It's nothing that's going to be great dynamic or whatever. She said, but it's a look that women give you that lets you know that they're interested in you. And I lie to you not. Whenever I watched a movie that it had some kind of romantic interest in it like that, I've looked for that look. And I lie to you not. I put my hand up. I've seen it every single time. I was just like, darn, she is so right. I know one of your favorite movies. I think we talked about this before. The movie Love Jones. Remember the scene when she leaves out of the record store? She leaves out of the record store after he had asked her out. She was like, "No, it's not a good time." But as she's walking down the street, what did she do?
She gives him the look.
She looked back. She looked back. Now, of course, he couldn't see it, but she looked back. That was that signal that she was interested in him. Because if she weren't interested in him, she'd have just gone on. It wouldn't have, nothing probably, that director probably wouldn't even have had her do that look. I promise you, they did that specifically because of that very thing. Because it showed without words that she was interested in him. And and you all, whether you all do it consciously or subconsciously, it's that look that men have to pay attention to in order to be able to know whether or not a lady is interested. Because even if guys you'll hear like they might be sitting at at a bar or club or whatever, and they're looking at this woman and she gives him a look. That look.
What if the lady is just cross-eyed, Leroy? What if she ain't even looking?
Hey, I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing to do with that shit.
What if she ain't even? What if she's looking at somebody behind you?
I ain't got nothing to do with that. Hey, I ain't got nothing to do with that. But there's usually there's a way that a woman will let you know. Men, we're not going to just sit there and stare at you. Now, I'll tell you this. I know me, and I don't know if other fellas do this, where I may observe a woman, that I may be interested in for a minute. Not somebody that we just happenstance to see, but if it's somebody I know I'm going to kind of see, and because I might be checking her out or whatever, just kind of see what her, what her personality is or her art is or whatever and stuff like that. I may check her out for a minute just to kind of see, just kind of see what she, how her mannerisms are.
Yeah.
Like that, because you all say a lot without saying a whole lot. When it comes
That's true.
What you all body language is.
That's true.
Y'all
Sometimes we talk too much, and sometimes we say just enough.
Right. Exactly. So we got this. That was what the gist of our conversation about. Just about approaching women, approaching men without approaching. Because I've said this, and the ladies may disagree with it, but hey, I know women are afraid of rejection and don't like rejection, and
no one does.
Right, no one does, but it's always assumed that it's okay for men to be rejected, but not women to be rejected, which I think is wrong. We don't like it any more than you all do. So why?
Right.
Why, But a lot of people
Right.
think that, oh, it's okay if he, if he gets rejected, he can handle it. He got tough skin or whatever, stuff like that. But
Right.
that, it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt us, our feelings or whatever. Just like it would some, a woman or whatever. She got rejected. Now we'll move on. We'll move past it and everything. But yeah, we have feelings too. you know.
No, that's the truth. But I think that that's the truth. And sometimes women think that, okay, well, he's a man, he's not feeling that, or he doesn't have feelings, even something as simple as that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the man feels too. The man is hurt too. The
Right.
man feels the same thing that a woman feels. And let's talk about that.
Okay.
When men are taught not to cry, to man up, to not be emotional, it's a punk, it's weak, don't do that. And then they get into these relationships and they don't know how to feel or use their emotions. As a man, like, what were you taught to do when it comes to your emotions? Were you taught to suppress them or to verbally express how you felt?
No, I was taught that. I was taught that, big boys don't cry, suck it up, you know, you be a man, be a big boy. You know what I mean? Those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things that you tell that that most of us tell, were told or tell young little boys, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't understand that those things, when as you get older as a man, they stay with you. You don't just
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden turn that switch off
Mm-hmm.
and become emotional and have an understanding of how, the broad range of your emotions. And like we said, hey, you can't be crying at the drop of a dime,
Right.
because everything.
Right. Like, why
But
are you crying?
yeah, why you crying all the time? Because that will, that is, something that will be looked at as you being soft or you being vulnerable and everything like that. And that's one of the reasons why I think we as men, hold in our emotions, because a lot of
Yeah.
times or sometimes women will use that and say, oh, he's soft, or oh, he's this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And as opposed to, understanding certain situations. Yeah, I expect my man to be emotional, and I expect. I mean, I always use. Well, I've looked at my dad and the way that he was. I can't even remember one time seeing my father cry, even
Wow.
when uh, even when he did the eulogy of my grandfather. Now,
Mm.
he probably did maybe in his quiet time,
Mm-hmm.
his
Like,
quiet
to
time to himself
himself,
and everything.
but he
Yeah,
didn't
to
want to show
himself and
that
everything.
vulnerability.
But I don't. And I'm sitting here thinking, I can't remember a time. I can't remember a time
Wow.
seeing him cry.
And like I
And
always say, more is caught than taught. So
mm-hmm,
when you are telling a young boy, hey, don't cry, right?
mm-hmm,
Or even if the opposite, let's say if you told a young boy, it's okay for you to cry. But then, like you said, if you've never seen your father cry and that was your example, then you think, hey, I want to be like my dad, or I want to be
mm-hmm,
like my mom. And, he's strong, he's Superman, she's Superwoman. And then you don't. And then fast forward to getting into relationships, in high school or college, or, getting married later on in life, then you have this suppression and you sometimes don't even know where it comes from.
right.
Then you're emotionally unavailable in a
Yep.
relationship. And a
Exactly.
lot of women out there can relate to that. Being
Mm-hmm.
in relationships with men who are just emotionally unavailable. Like,
Yep.
they just have this face, whether they're
Mm-hmm.
happy, whether they're sad, if their feelings are, hurt or bothered, they just have this, like, it is what it is. And that's so hard to break through that barrier when it comes to, having real authentic love. Like, a woman cannot get past that barrier of hardness,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because, it's almost that protection, and they don't want to be vulnerable, and they think it's not manly to be vulnerable.
Right.
But all the ladies will agree with me, it is very manly for a man, excuse me, to express his feelings and to be vulnerable. Now, like you said, we don't want no man crying on our shoulder every daggone day. Every time you turn around, like, you crying
For sure. For sure. Absolutely.
But
For
we
sure.
want you to be able to, and we don't want to regulate that. And on a serious tip, like women have to be careful. Like if you say, oh, you're a punk, or, you know, why are you crying? Or you acting like a girl, you acting
Right.
like a woman. Every time that man shows his vulnerability, then what's going to happen is he's going to retreat
Yep.
and he's not going to show it anymore. So
Yep.
women, you have to be careful as well. When a man does show it, don't take it for granted and don't stomp on it. Right, Leroy?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, because I promise you, the first time that he does it, and she responds in that manner, he'll shut it down. He will shut it down, and he won't allow himself to be in that vulnerable position with her
Yeah.
again, and that will, you know, more than likely go into that next relationship, that
Yeah.
next relationship, all of it. I mean, and it's just, it's unfortunate that, that we have to, that those kind of things happen, and especially in this day and time when it comes to relationships,
Mm-hmm.
because people, and I've always said this, that we're at this point where we seem to be talking at each other instead of to each other,
Yeah.
you know,
Do me a
and
favor, Leroy. Do me a
yeah.
favor. Hey, unplug. It's like a static. I'm not sure if it's your headphones. Try to disconnect for a second. I want to see something. Yes, that's much better.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's not.
Yes, it was a static, and I thought it was going to go away, and it's been there the whole time. And I was like, okay, all right, that's perfect. Static.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I
All
thought
right.
the earbuds
So
made it better.
when you watch it back, you'll hear it. It was a static. Okay, so go
Okay.
ahead.
No, I mean, I was just saying that in this day and time, especially when it comes to relationships, we're talking at each other versus to each other, and we're at the point we're watching a lot of times what I see, whether it's on YouTube and just in general, just looking at when people talk about relationships, just how negative people are. You got the women, like you said at the beginning, you got women talking about men in a negative way, you got men talking about women in a negative way, and there doesn't seem to be this um, uplifting of each other. And understanding,
Yeah,
yes, both men and women got issues, but
yeah,
uh, if we were to have that positive imagery that we need, and to focus on those as opposed to the negative ones, I think relationships would be a lot better. Um,
yeah.
you know,
So it's still staticky. So you might as well put them back on. This is the
well,
thing with live. You just don't know. You might as well put them back on. It's going in and out, but that's all right because you're saying some good stuff. So I'm sure that sure they
yeah,
hear you. And when you live, just anything can happen, y'all.
yeah,
So
absolutely,
just bear with us, but really just try to focus on the content. But it's so true. Now you
yeah,
often hear, I did a post about this on TikTok as well as I posted it and I showed you when I was talking about 3 things that a man can't give you and
mm-hmm,
3 things that a woman cannot give you. And I
yes,
talked about with women, men cannot give you self-esteem, men cannot give you value, and men cannot give you growth. And then with the men, I said, women, no matter how bad she is, no matter how good she is, she can't give you importance. She can't give you your manhood, and she cannot give you strength. Now, we know that the men and the women can almost, I don't want to say take away those things, but they can contribute to you not seeing yourself as valuable, you not seeing yourself as strong, you not seeing yourself as important or worthy, right? Let's talk about that for a moment. Although they can't give it to you and they can't take it away without your permission, but they can add to the diminishing of those things.
yeah, and that's the biggest thing. We as men and women, we have to come into a relationship understanding who we are, and not allowing someone else to define your manhood or your womanhood. When you start from that premise, then you're able to um, tell someone, or when you meet someone, you have the adage of, what are you adding to my life, what are you adding to the relationship. Because like I said to
Right.
you yesterday, I was saying when you hear these relationship talks and stuff like that from Steve Harvey all the way to these folks that want to be
Yeah.
on YouTube giving you advice that have no business giving people advice on manhood and womanhood. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what you hear them saying, and you hear people saying that men are the protectors and providers. That's all you hear. That's
Right.
all. Those are the only
Right.
two things that you hear that you'll ever hear them say in a conversation. That men are
Right.
the protectors or providers, and they never talk about the woman's responsibility, but they never talk about that from a whole relationship perspective. And I said it's these three things, and this is for men and for women. Hear me. Write this down right now. Get your pen, get your paper. That whether you are a man or whether you are a woman, grown man, grown women, this is what you do. I'm not talking about males. I'm not talking about females. I'm talking about grown men, grown women. So
Right.
understand what the difference is. But you should have these three things, these three P's, and you should be able to
Right.
ask any man or any woman these three things when it comes to a relationship. And I promise you, it will save you time in whether or not you want to get involved with this person. If they can't answer these three things, I'm telling
That's
you,
true.
you want to run quick, and that's
That,
to protect, provide, and produce. And let me give you why I say that. And this goes for both men and women. You ask this question. You ask this question: what are you protecting in the relationship? What are you willing to protect in the relationship? What are
mhm.
you willing to provide in the relationship?
And
And then
providing doesn't mean money, ladies. It's
exact.
providing doesn't just mean like what kind of money do you show up where the money resides. I know that is the theme for 2021, where the money resides, where the money resides. But providing doesn't necessarily always mean what can you provide financially.
When you hear those conversations, that's the only conversation that they talk about when it comes to
Yeah.
providing. Because
Yeah.
I ask men this that want to talk about being the providers for the family. One of the first things I ask them is, what do you have a will in place? Do you have an estate plan for your children so that when they get older or if something happens to you,
Yeah.
they're taken care of? That's providing.
Yeah.
That's being
Yeah.
a provider. And
Yeah.
the third thing I talked about was producing. What are you producing in that relationship? If that person that you are looking to get involved in a relationship with isn't going to produce something out of the relationship, which means what you said, what are you adding? And I said it yesterday because I love the song by Lenice called "Add to Me." Y'all go check it out. It's called "Add to Me," and the song talks about what are you adding to me. I know who I said at the beginning. If I bring these things to the table, what are you adding to me and the
Right.
relationship that we've decided to get into? If you're not adding, then what you're doing, you're subtracting from.
Right.
So I don't
We
know where
need
y'all come
deposits,
from,
people.
but
No
in
more
the
withdrawals. We need deposits. And we're not talking about the money deposits. We are talking about deposits. What are you pouring into me? Are you just taking from me? Are you
right,
just bleeding me dry and withdrawing my whatever? Or are you adding to it? Are you
yep,
making me a better person? Because I always say, if you're in a relationship and the person is not making you a better person or
mm,
contributing to your growth, then what is the point?
yep,
Because they have to be able to contribute to your growth in some capacity. They
yep,
have to leave you better than you were, than to leave you worse off than you were. So
yep,
that's what we're talking about is deposits and withdrawals. Is someone who you with right now, are they
yep.
depositing into your life, or are they bleeding you dry, withdrawing everything you have or that you built yourself up to have?
Absolutely, because I was thinking earlier today because I knew we were going to be having this conversation, and my thing was this, and I started thinking about it, and I want your viewers to start to think about this. Think about all of think about the relationships that you've had, and think about whether or not that individual added to you or subtract or
Mm-hmm.
subtracted from you. Were they an
Mm-hmm.
asset or were they a liability to you in your life?
Come on.
So that's the question that you want to ask to
Yeah.
me, that you want to ask. when you start to get, when you initially meet somebody, you don't know, none of us know. We don't know if that person is going to be the person or whatever. But if you begin the relationship by asking the right questions, and by asking them where they trying to figure out where they are in their thinking space, and understanding what their thoughts are, or ideas are on relationships. If you're looking to just, hey, just relationships, and you're not looking for anything serious, then say that, because
Yeah.
then you give that other person the opportunity to be able to figure, hey, they might be the same way. Hey,
Yeah.
let's just do what it do.
Yeah.
Or if I'm looking for something serious and that other person isn't looking for something serious, then you need to be man enough or woman enough to be like, to say no. You have to be strong enough within yourself to understand who you are and say, you know what? No, I'm not even going down that road with them. No matter how good you may
Yeah.
think that they look, no matter how good you may think they smell, and this, that, and the other, how good you may think that they treat you, if they're not in that same space that you are,
Yeah.
you really don't want to put yourself in a position where where that relationship isn't going where you want it to go to, and then
Absolutely.
you wind up on divorce court somewhere talking about they did this and
Your
they did that
Honor.
with
Your
Judge Payne.
Honor. Your Highness. Your Highness.
You know what I'm saying?
But it's so true, and it's so funny because I went viral on TikTok, as I was talking to you
Mm-hmm.
about. And I went viral talking about relationships. And Iyanla was talking about relationships. And I'm telling you, I still have people every day talking about their relationships, asking me questions about relationships, or just letting me know their stories. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing that most of us have in common. Either we want a relationship, we've been in a relationship didn't work out, we're trying to do it again, this was good, this wasn't so good,
Right.
this communication, it's so many different commonalities with people when it comes to relationships. And I think that's why that particular video resonated. And it was also transparency and being authentic with your
Mm-hmm.
own story and learning how to share your truth. And I think it's so important to really share your truth about relationships. Not to say that you have to let everybody know your business, but
Right.
now with the world of social media, people see people flossing and flexing and think that's the real of relationships. And then when people break up or people divorce or people are struggling within their relationships, they're like, huh? What? I thought your relationship was perfect, because I thought relationships and marriages were goals and that's what it should be, because you guys were posing or doing this or doing that. But relationships of all kind are work. And I always say
Yep.
relationships are a mirror to who you really are,
Mm.
because it will begin to have you pulling back the layers and really seeing yourself. And sometimes what you don't like in another person is exactly
Mm.
who you are.
Mm. Wow, say that
And
one
those,
again. I like that.
I'm telling you, like they're like what you, because if you can easily identify it in someone else, the reason why you can identify it easily is because 9 times out of 10, it's probably you too. It's probably you too. It's so
I
interesting. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's one of the things I was talking about the other day. If you find yourself, in these different relationships, and it doesn't seem to be working, there's one common denominator in all of those relationships. So
And it might not even be the relationships, it might be the choice of the people you're choosing.
exactly,
So then you
exactly,
have to reevaluate that and say, okay, where was I in this place and space where I chose this, or I didn't
right,
look for this, or I ignored the sign?
right.
It's about growth. And oftentimes men get a bad rap, and I said this before publicly. And normally, some of the ladies be like, you telling the truth. And some of the ladies be like, dang, why you gotta say that? But even with instance talking about Latoya Luckett and her husband are
Yeah,
getting a divorce,
yeah,
right? And they were on Black Love, and I put a clip up on
yep,
TikTok about Black Love, right? And she was just talking about how she's fighting for it and she ain't getting a divorce, and she was wilding out. and she was acting like single Toya, she said, and she was, you know, doing her part. And I say all that to say the minute she decided to get divorced, immediately they blamed her husband. Why did she choose him? He's a loser. Look how he spoke to her. For we saw a small clip on Tiny and Toya. Excuse me, I said Tiny and Toya. T.I. and Tiny Family Hustle. We saw a small clip of their relationship. And even when I saw it, and I love LaToya to death, it's no, you know, no judgment, but I saw where she was going wrong too. And I saw it wasn't just him, but after you have a major change in your life, like his mother passed away, sometimes that does make you different. And sometimes you have to heal through that. And if you happen to be married during that, then you're technically supposed to heal with yourself and then with your partner. But sometimes people don't recover from that. But when I saw the show, I was like, oh, maybe she shouldn't have said that. Maybe she shouldn't have been passive aggressive. Maybe she shouldn't have pushed that button. Okay, maybe he shouldn't have decided to go out of town and didn't let her know. Like all the things that they showed, I didn't see it as his fault solely. Now it came out that he was cheating, but he said that that's not true. And we're not to judge, because how do we don't know what's true or what's not going on in someone else's marriage. All we know is what they show. But why do you think men always get the bad rap? Because sometimes the women are wilding. We already said that in the beginning.
Well, I think men get a bad rep just because honestly, in the time and the time and age that we're in, you know, back in the day with that, you know, our grandfathers and our fathers, you wind up finding about, you know, other family members at the funeral. You know what I'm saying? You got a couple brothers or sisters across town, you know, that happened. And and women have been hurt and done wrong for so long, that it's just unfortunately natural to blame the man for the fault of the relationship not working. And the other flip side of this, and you may get mad, you might get upset, and the ladies too, is a lot of women don't like to be held accountable, even when they are wrong. You know, even when they do something wrong,
or told what to do. I don't like to always be told what to do. You know, nobody does, but you do have to hold yourself accountable. That's true.
But
sure.
You know, I mean, but when you hold that mirror up to a lot of women, they you know, they think that, oh, I'm not wrong for this, or I only did this because he did that. That still doesn't make what you did right. You know what I'm saying? Or the same to me. If a man is wrong, a man is wrong. But if a woman is wrong, she needs to be wrong too. You hold them both accountable for what they do that's wrong. Like you said, or I say, call a spade a spade. If you were wrong in what you were dealing with, like you were talking about Victoria, like, no, that wasn't right what you did. That wasn't right what she did. That aspect of it wasn't right what she did. It doesn't negate what he did. That saying that he was right in what he did either. But you got to own what you do. You know, you have to own what you do in the relationship, or what went wrong in the relationship. A lot of times, people, when it comes to relationships, they want to say, oh, one person or the other was to blame. No, sometimes both bear responsibility of why that relationship didn't work.
Yep. And typically, when a relationship doesn't work, it's never one person. It's usually both people. And it's something or issue that they can't get past, or they didn't seek help, or it's just something that they just don't agree upon. And because they say, you know, marriage is having the same argument over and over and over again. And sometimes it is. Because if you can't come to the bottom line and one person doesn't concede and say, hey, you know what? My bad, let me change this behavior. Or the other person doesn't say, my bad, let me change this behavior. Or they're not willing to change the behavior, then there's nowhere else you can go. If you have two people and one's not changing the behavior that might be, you know, hurting the other person, then you're going to go in a circle, and you're going to go in a circle, and you're going to go on a hamster wheel, and there's not going to be something. So really, it has to come to a point where people agree to disagree, and that takes maturity, and that takes self-awareness. And like you said, it takes self-accountability. And those things are so important because you really have to see who you are. And if you don't know who you are and your contribution to whatever good, the bad, the ugly, then you're never going to grow in a relationship, and you're never going to have a productive relationship if that's what you want.
Right, absolutely, and that's one of the hardest things for individuals to do, is to look at themselves. And then I challenge people with your, with your relationships, to sit and before you get into that next relationship, before you start seeing someone else, reflect on that relationship that you got out of, and you ask yourself, what part did I play in this relationship not working? And you have to be honest with yourself. Going back to our movie again, because we both love Jones, and it had so many nuggets in it. The last scene in the movie, when they're standing under that bridge, and they're talking about their relationship. Lorenz Tate tells Nia Long, he says, "Look, I accept my responsibility in the part that I played in our relationship not working." So you could tell he had done some thinking about it. It's like, look, I'm not gonna say that you were totally to blame. I'm not gonna say that I'm totally to blame. What I'm gonna say is, I accept the responsibility that I played in it. And and we have to do that.
And that's when healing can begin. And that's when you can kind of hit the restart button with that. And one of my favorite lines is in the movie, and I think I've said this on another show, is when Khalil Kain and Nia Long decide to get back together. And they're in there, and he's like, "Who ate the toasted oats and all of that?" And that part. And he says, the whole conversation is, "We've been together all of these years." And Nia Long looks and said, "All we had was all these years," meaning that we didn't have anything of substance. And oftentimes people stay in relationships just so they can, the tally mark. Ooh, made it to 5 years. Ooh, made it to 10 years. Ooh, made it to 15 years. Wow. He's cheating on her. She's cheating on him. They cuss each other out every day. One person is staying out. One person is not. They're not really living in the same house. If they are, one sleeping in another room, one sleeping on the couch, one sleeping. But they say, "But we still together." But it's not a healthy relationship. And I would rather have a healthy relationship than to hit tally marks in monumental times.
Right, absolutely. And that's the thing that people have to understand. And I think in this day and time, people really have to sit and say, what does a healthy relationship look like to me?
Especially if they've never seen one, then they don't know what it's like.
That's huge right there. That's huge. You just nailed it right there. Seeing a healthy relationship, which means who is in what I call your circle of impact. Who are you associating yourself with? That if you want a healthy relationship, are you around people that either have healthy relationships or that you can know what a healthy relationship looks like as well? Because that will definitely play a part in you being able to not waste your time in getting into these toxic relationships, or getting in relationships with somebody that you ain't got no business being involved with.
Absolutely. Why do you think people ignore red flags when they see them happening in a person? Let's just say they're dating. Why do you think people ignore them?
Well, for men, I think they ignore it because most of the time, to be honest with you, they think that the woman is very attractive. So if she's super attractive, hey, I'll deal with those things. I'll put up with it, I'll put up with it because she looks good. She looks good on my arm. She looks good when I talk to the. Or she got a big old booty. Right. Or when I talk to the fellas, when the fellas see her, it's like, "Oh man, that's you. Oh, okay." She could be she could be mean as a junkyard dog, but she looked good though. But when it comes to women, they stay. One, I honestly believe that the number one reason is because of security or money. Because, oh, he's taking care of me, he's doing this for me, and the other one, we ain't gonna go into that one because it ain't that kind of show.
You're talking about vitamin D. You might as well say it. You talk about vitamin D.
So,
but no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, though.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. People stay because they say that must be dipped in gold. Like he's treating you like trash, and you're still staying.
Right.
But it ain't no vitamin. To me, vitamin D ain't worth the headache. And that's another movie, Disappearing Acts. And she said, you came over here and told me, because I would have told you the ain't worth the headache.
Yeah, she sure.
She told the new woman.
Did. Yep, right.
The new woman
she said,
I wish you would have came and talked to me, because I would have told you. And we need a support group.
For sure, absolutely, absolutely, and that's on the men.
Right though.
Yeah, and that's true, and that's on the men's side too. Those, I promise you, if you were to do like research on those two aspects of why people ignore the red flags, I promise you, those four things are the top four things that when it comes to two things for women, two things for men, that why they ignore, and it has to do with money, and it has to do with the love. I promise you.
Yeah. But it's true. And so many people, unfortunately, just they ignore it because they want a relationship. And so many people are really thirsty for relationships that they'll just pick any relationship, even if it's doing them harm. Men and women do the same because, truth be told, nobody wants to be alone, especially during this time with quarantining and COVID. Nobody wants to be alone, so people are settling. And I say, my quote, I keep using my quote, it's because I've been doing this thing for quite some time, but you settle on real estate, not relationships.
Come on now, you just dropped the bomb on right there. I like that.
Okay.
I like that's that. You're going to hear that again.
That's on my website. Because I believe...
I'll give you credit the first time. I'll give you credit the first time for it. After that is mine. So
nah, brother. It's on my website. It's logged and copyrighted. Don't even try. Don't have me sue you.
but that's gold right there.
No, but it's true. You know what I'm saying? It really is true. Like you're not supposed to. So don't be writing down my quote.
I told you I'm gonna use that one. You thought I was playing. You think I'm playing? You gonna see it again. So
just credit me.
You gonna see my picture right next to it too.
See, and you better and my name better be real little and light in there. Cause look, we got it on films. We got it on films. No, but seriously though, people do settle when they and I think too, and as a life coach, and when I talk to people, because people really don't know their worth. They really don't. They don't know their worth, or they don't know their value. Maybe because of their childhood and they were broken down by parents, or maybe they were broken down by siblings, or maybe they were broken down with a violation of them, or maybe they just have never been taught that you are a queen and you are a king and you really have to love yourself. And I think that it's so important for people I know that it's very important for people to really love themselves and appreciate themselves. And I think everybody should have that season where they're just by themselves, not hopping from one relationship to the next. I feel that it's important for people to date themselves and get to know who they are and what they like and what they don't like, and really fall in love with themselves. Because once someone falls in love with themselves, there's not too many people out there who can break them and break their spirit when it comes to loving themselves. Now, you often hear about women talking about self-love and loving themselves. What is the man's perspective on the term self-love?
Well, self-love, to me, self-love is just that understanding, being comfortable in your own skin. And I'll give you an example. Me personally, um, I'm short, very short.
Hmm.
Average height for a guy is what, 6'9", let me 6'9", 5'9", pretty much 6 feet, 6 feet
And how
tall,
tall are you?
and I'm 5'3". So I've been five foot
Five foot
three,
four? Oh,
5'3".
3. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm 5'3".
Okay.
I've been 5'3" since I was in high school, college. Haven't
Mm-hmm.
grown. So, but growing up, that was always something that um, people will either tease you about, or people look at you differently, especially when it comes to a man. They look at you differently. But here's what I tell people: it was always instilled in me to be able to love who I am. My height has nothing to. My height has. We'll go back to what we were talking about before. My height has nothing to do with my manhood. It doesn't
Mm,
define my manhood. And
mm.
you'll always see the question, or I've seen this question quite a bit on social media, why women don't date short men, or they'll ask the question, do you date short men? And that
That's true.
question gives a lot. You get a lot of answers. No, I can't date a man that's shorter than me, and this, that, and the other, whatever.
That's true.
And I try
It's
to
true.
explain, and my response sometimes to, to women when we have that conversation is this. I said, so you're telling me that you define a man by how tall he is, and I said, how do you feel, or how would you feel, or how do you feel about a man defining you by your body or your body parts? Does that define you? Does you or your body parts define you as a woman? Has nothing. No, that doesn't define you. So when you can understand who you are as a man or as a woman, and you're comfortable with that, because hey, I can't control this body that God gave me. I just know who I am. I
Right.
know I know who I am, and so I don't. I never. It never bothered me because I was always taught to
So
believe.
never.
Say it
Okay,
again.
so let's expound on that. Let's keep it all the way real as you do. So you never said, you know what, I'm feeling a little inferior or insecure because I'm short, and everybody wants this tall, dark, and handsome, and people really are discriminated against me because I'm short. You've never had a time where you wish you were taller or really struggled through
I've
that?
never struggled with it. Now there have been times
Okay.
when I have wished that I was taller. My best friend in high school,
Like the song, I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I
right?
was a baller.
My best friend in high school, we played basketball together. Mark was 6'7". I'm five
Mm.
foot three. So we walking
Oh,
around, we
that's
walking
funny.
around, we
Big
look like
dog,
this.
big little
Yeah,
dog.
we look like this. And I used to always, he and I, when we would have our conversations and everything like that, he's a great ball player. I mean, played basketball, football, just great and everything. And I used to tell him, I said, I said, if I were 6 feet taller, even a couple of inches taller, 5'7", or 5'8", I said I would have
Mm-hmm.
probably. I felt like I would have been better. I can't use that excuse because Muggsy Bogues disproved all of that. 5'3",
Yeah,
14 years in the NBA. So
yeah.
you can't.
He did
There's no.
that. Muggsy was the bull.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Muggsy did
he's a
that.
man.
So there's no excuses, and he was my idol when
Yeah,
I was in high school because I saw this guy that
yeah,
looked just like me doing the
yeah,
things that I was trying to emulate and do and everything like that. So,
yeah.
that was the only thing that I ever that when Mark and I would have those conversations, and then it would I would get frustrated if anything. I would say I would get frustrated if anything because I would know that there were certain women that they weren't willing to get into a relationship because of my height. I had a young lady. This was back when I was in high school again too, going into college. Young lady that worked right up the street from where I lived in Giant. I thought she was the finest thing ever. And I would go in there looking to see. I mean, because I thought she was attractive.
Yeah,
Kendall, she was 5'9". Kelly was tall, had that statuesque, had that model kind of frame and
yeah,
everything like that.
yeah.
Very attractive. And we had a conversation. We actually became really good friends and everything like that. But I remember her saying one time, she was like, Leroy, I couldn't date you. She said, because you're too short. She said you're too short. Blatantly said, she was
Mm-hmm.
like, she wasn't trying to be hurtful or anything, but she was
Yeah,
honest.
she was telling the truth.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, she was being
and
honest about
unfortunately,
it.
a lot of women feel that way. They
Right.
really do.
Right. And she said it's
Mm-hmm.
a, for her, she said it was a security thing. She said she would, for whatever reason, she said, she felt secure, more secure with the guy that was taller than her. It's funny. She said that we were hanging out one time. We happened to go to I think a restaurant or whatever, something like that. And we're in Baltimore, so anything can pop off at any time, at any time. So we're walking in, and something happens, and she was I think she was beside me or whatever. We were walking side by side, and the first thing she did was grab my arm. But she grabbed my arm. So I'm like, yeah, okay, this is somebody you said you don't feel secure with, but the first thing you're gonna do when something happens is gonna grab me.
Is
So
grab arm. She was like, protect me, look, little guy. Now I'm a 7 tall.
right, so
You know what that go ahead.
no, that's what I was saying about that. Yeah.
You know what that reminds me of? And we're talking about movies and shows, and oftentimes they write the realness, right? And the
Hmm.
truth. And my favorite show, Friends, been my favorite show since day one. Now all the, people who haven't seen it, it's on Netflix, so everybody is watching it. But
Okay.
day one, and with Tony and Todd. So Tony wouldn't
Hmm.
date Todd, who eventually became her husband, because he was short. So they would make, short jokes all the time, and
Hmm. Hmm.
different things, his package, if you will, and different things about that. But she's like, I could never date you. She straight up said it like, he was like, 'cause you're you know, responded similar to you. So one time on her car, and somebody was trying to steal her purse.
Uh
And
huh.
he came out of nowhere with his short self,
Right.
and grabbed the purse and
Right.
bringing him down. And he said, he looked over to her and said something about his height. And then she's looking in TV magic like, so and next to her on the white sheets, and legs come up here, and her little legs go go down
Mm.
to the thing. And then marrying him, people will say, I want this and I want that and I want this. But sometimes it might show up in a package that you least expected. And sometimes the best come by surprise if you give it a chance. So, I think the longer women are single, the more they start saying, well, sure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Losing last, you losing last because of that. So sometimes women, and men have to get out of their own way and
Yeah.
really look at people for really who they are, and the
Absolutely.
character that they have, and the attributes they have, and are their morals lining up, in the future. I understand some people, I've heard women say, well, I want to have kids and I don't want to have short kids. So then that perpetuates the stereotype or
Mhm.
the biases like you were talking about with that. But it really doesn't. I agree with you. It really doesn't define your manhood,
Right. 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 And you
you
have some
know?
men that get caught up in that too, because they call it that, what, the Napoleon complex or whatever. Where
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine. He he would now, mind you, he was 5 foot, 5'4", 5'5", so he was a couple of inches taller than me. But he would not date tall women. He would not date a woman that was taller than him. Absolutely would.
I dated a short guy before, and he definitely had the Napoleon complex
Right.
for sure. He will wear these little boots with the little heel, not like Prince, not going that far, but wearing, like, he was very, and you hear them. You heard Bow Wow tell Sierra, well, don't wear heels.
Mhm.
Don't wear, but then the woman has to stunt who she is. But then that confident short guy will say, you can wear a heel 10 feet tall. You can
Mhm.
tower over me, but I'm still the man. You know what I mean? And I'm
Right.
still the man in this relationship. So that has a lot. See, confidence is sexy. It's attractive. whether the woman has confidence or that man has confidence. Because if that man, if he's short and he's carrying himself with so much confidence and so much swag and so much intelligence, then you will forget that he's short, or you'll forget that you don't date short guys. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's important to really get to the root of the person and who they are and have that conversation and not shut it down. So have you ever done that as a guy? Like, I don't date women like this or that. What do you think that bias is for men? If women have, I won't date short men, what do you think the men say? I won't date what type of woman?
Well, you have men that won't date a woman that's over a certain size. If she's not a size 8, if she's not a size 6, if she's a size 14, or she's too big, or she has to be what they deem as being as attract. When we go back to that attractive scale again, she has to look like if she's not an 8 or a 9 or 10, I'm not going to date her. You know what I mean? As opposed to, I think men, when it comes to that, they're a woman's weight, or what they deem as, like you said, a big butt, or or whatever. Some guys will be like, oh, no, I can't date her. Her breast ain't big enough. You know what I'm saying? Or her butt not big enough. You know what I mean? But to me, that's all superficial stuff. And like you said, you could be missing out on someone because you're looking at the package as opposed to who that person is, who that individual is. And all of us initially, and I'll say this, and I do have to run. I'll say this initially, that we all have our type that we may be initially attracted to, what we see. That's the first thing that we see. We don't see the personality. We don't see your character initially, but what happens is, someone who catches your attention, they could be the most attractive person in the world, but physically attractive, but their character could be, just
you better speak it.
They could be the worst person and person type of in the world. So you have to go beyond the physical, because but we've talked about it, where people, you have so many people that settle for that attractive person, whether it's physically attractive or monetarily they see them as being attractive because of that very thing, and that's, I think, what gets a lot of men in trouble, because they want that eye candy, they want what's looking good on their arm. And then women, they get in trouble because they want somebody who's going to take care of them, to be able to take care of them, give them that security that they feel that they want and everything like that. So
before we go, I just have one last question for you. From a man's perspective, what do you want women to know?
That's a great
when it comes
question.
to dating? Yeah.
I think what I would want women to know about men is this: we hurt just like you do, we feel just like you do, and then we care just like you do.
Yeah.
Those things don't. And I tell men this is, we don't have to be Superman all the time. You don't have to be Superman all the time. That's why we have women. That's why God created women, so that we didn't have to be Superman all the time. So don't think that you have to do everything all the time. She's there because a woman should add to you by doing that very thing, by saying, you know what, nah, yeah, I got this, and you should in turn be doing the same thing with her. I got this. Don't worry about it. I got this. And I think men get in trouble with that adage that, it just boggles my mind. You hear men that say that, a woman is not supposed to pay for a woman is not supposed to pay any time that they go out. No, yeah, you are. Yes, you are supposed to. You are supposed to treat that man the way that you want to be treated. So what makes you think that you shouldn't treat him with, taking him out, or treating him to a dinner or a nice time out and everything like that, just like he does you? That goes,
but like you just said, right? But like you said, some men don't say that. So I guess it's really whatever the couple decides is right for each other. Because like you just said, some men say, I'm not letting my woman pay. I'm not letting my woman touch a door, open a door. and all of that.
Exactly.
Where then you might have a woman saying, I want to pay, or I want to open my own door. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't open my own doors. And as a lady, I don't feel like I should open my own doors. You know, I'll stand by the door as a lady because you teach people how to treat you. So where some women will be like, I don't need no man to open my door. I'm a lady, open my door. And I will say thank you. I'm not going to sit there like you supposed to. I'm going to sit there and, you know, and then you teach people how to treat you, just like men teach women how to treat them.
Now let me ask you this real quick.
It's a partnership.
When you get in the car and your husband opens the door for you and you get inside, do you unlock his door?
Of course. Of course. You're supposed to, like they say, you're supposed to rush around and unlock the door. But yeah, absolutely. Unless they pop it open, you know, obviously. And then if you can't reach the door. But yes, it's about a partnership. You know, I think that women have needs, and I think women have needs, and I think both people collectively have needs. And it's not a one size fits all with relationships. It's about what's working, you know, within that relationship. Because like with your girlfriend, you probably have the conversations with her like, hey, this is what I like, you know, when you first meet people and stuff like that. And if you're on the same page, then that's a perfect match. If somebody's saying, oh no, I don't do that, I don't do this, then you know. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be a perfect match. It just means that you have to meet in the middle. And relationships are our partnership.
Absolutely.
Any last words before we disconnect? And I thank you so much for always, you know, being willing to come on and be honest and talk about, you know, subjects that people want to hear about.
No, I mean, I think that's it. I think that, you know, 2021, I would just tell men and women to be real in your relationships. Be real with people. Be who you are and be willing to accept what it is that the other person is or isn't. That way you get to decide, they get to decide whether or not you want to move forward. That way, if you're open and honest, then if you communicate correctly, then nobody can say, well, I wasn't told this or I didn't know that. Hey, like Ray Charles said, you knew what it was. You know what it is. You know what it is. You know what it was.
You know what it is. And we are going to end on that note. When you're dealing with somebody, you know what it is. And if you decide to ignore what it is, then you're going to have to take that one on the chin. Exactly. But when you see the red flags, say something, have the conversation. Doesn't mean that you have to run. Exactly. Have that conversation. If you see something, and be authentic and real. That's the only way any relationship will work. If you don't like it, say you don't like it. If you love it, say you love it, and be able to express. Now, if you're with someone and you can't be honest and open and you can't express your feelings, then something needs to be reevaluated. Leroy, I thank you so much. Thank you. Absolutely. I appreciate it. As always, let the people know how they can get in contact with you.
Sure, they can connect with me through social media. I'm on all social media, Facebook, either my name, Leroy McKenzie Jr., J&F Enterprises is the name of my company. You put that in, that'll come up, J&F Enterprises, LLC. On Instagram at JNF Enterprises, Twitter at JNF Enterprises 1. Check out the website. You can go to the website and see all of the products and services that we have. www.jnfenterprises.com, and of course YouTube JNF Enterprises. You can go and see great content that we have on there, dealing with business, dealing with relationships, with interviews like this with the great Kendell Lenice, and everything. So those are the places that you can find us.
All right, and Leroy and I, and somewhere around May, we'll keep you posted. We'll be having a virtual seminar, virtual panel all about relationships. But thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to Kendell Lenice Live. As always, on all social media platforms, it's Kendell Lenice. So make sure you subscribe, like, and share this video, and make sure you subscribe and follow us on our other platforms. Thank you so much. Remember, you are a star, so don't allow anyone to dim your shine. Until next time, God bless. Peace.